This software is MillSoft GX Developer. The program in front is a timer program. Again, everybody's got a different graphic. It's all ladder logic. Now the timers right there are going to be a little bit different because we don't have a whole lot of selections up on the toolbars to actually work with. It's a completely different type of menu. But the first line right here, we have an input, we have another input, we have an output. The output latches. There's your start-stop station. That start-stop station activates this line. As this input X4 opens and closes, that's going to take this counter 0, C0, and that counter is going to count to the number 10. Again, a different graphic. Well, comparison on that counter, now we have a special command, which is a bracket command. Inside of that back bracket command, you have the symbol greater than, C0, K2. We're going to compare the counter zero's accumulator. When that accumulator becomes greater than the number 2, the output turns on. Next line, greater than, C0, 5. When that counter's accumulator becomes greater than the number 5, the output turns on. We also have greater than and equals. Counter zero's accumulator, greater than or equal to number 8, the output turns on. Next line down is a reset command. Okay, counter 0, when it activates, is going to reset counter 0 and reset counter C200. C200. Well, I didn't use counter 1, 2, or 3 because when I jump to C200, this counter can count down. So the up and down counters are going to be based on the different numbers. Now, right here we have the first input, first output turns on, arms the system. The same input that counts up counter C0 is going to count counter C200. However, next line down, when this input is energized, that turns on a relay. A virtual relay M8200. When this relay is energized, this counter C200 will be a countdown counter. C200, when done bit reaches its set point, which is going to be the count of 10, contact closes, output turns on. Contact opens, output turns on. And all that starts right there when we arm the system. So I'm going to go ahead and write this to the PLC. Write to PLC. I'm going to write the program and the program parameters. Device comments, this requires for this type of PLC an additional device that is a cassette drive. So we don't use that at this point. So we execute write to PLC. It gives me a safety warning and it writes. Another safety warning. The write is completed. Well, you don't see anything here again till I go to the point where we monitor. Read mode, write mode, entry monitors. Here's my data monitor. Monitor mode. So once I turn on the monitor mode, now all of a sudden, bingo, we have the identifiers right there of zeros and ones activated and deactivated. I turn on X0. I energize X1. That turns on Y0 and closes the contacts right here on lines number 5 and 33. Now, as I activate these two contacts, X4, X4, this is going to count up. That'll count up. Counter C0, counter C200 will both count up at that point. So all I got to do is activate the contact. I turn that contact from a 0 to 1, and both of the counters count. Two separate counters, same input, counting. Well, comparison. When the counter is greater than 2, the output's on. The counter is greater than 5, the output's on. When that counter is going to be greater than or equal to 8, the output's on. So we can use the accumulator as a control point. Once the counter reaches the number 10, it's going to reset both counters back to 0. So both counters right here are going to be count up counters. Now, once I energize the line down here on number 40, X005, that energizes relay M2800. Now, when I energize X4, we go from 0 to 1 to 0. Now I'm counting down negative numbers. 2, negative 2, 3, negative 3, 4, negative 4, 5, negative 5, and so on. It will continue to count. Again, we can count up, we can count down. We can even activate and count individually by individual inputs. So I can count motion, I can count servo motor actions, I can count robotic actions, I can count cars going in and out of a parking garage. For any reason we need, we can count up, we can count down, or we can count up and down at the same time. So everybody's got counters. The graphics are always going to be a little bit different in how they set up. The biggest difference you're going to see is on the toolbars. But every counter is going to work the same exact way regardless whose PLC you use.